Namaskar. Welcome back to the second part of our series Shri Vidya. So far in our first episode, we have talked about what is Shri Vidya, what is the significance of Shri Vidya for one's own self-development, transformation, and understanding the universe and environment we are existing in. It talks about the entire existence. The subject expert with us will be enlightening us with more of the facts about Shri Yantra. Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar. We had just started with Sri Yantra. So let me go back to it and share it on the screen.
Right.
So we said this is the real 3D Sri Yantra, also called Meru, because it is 3D. If you look at it from the top and you make a plan drawing of it, it comes out as on the right hand side, which is more common. Most people have this 2D form rather than the 3D form. And this is the typical Shri Yantra. This is called as Meru, the 3D form. Okay. And as we said, in the center is the Bindu. Okay. Now the Bindu has two meanings. One is, it is origin. The second is, it is the goal state. So philosophically, when you look at the Shri Yantra, this becomes the point of origin from which everything then starts expanding out. So it is like, if you look from a scientific point of view, this is the singularity before the Big Bang. And then
Just the mere existence itself.
And the creation then moves out as the universe comes into existence. Spiritually, this becomes the goal state, and from Dasha Mahavidya point of view, philosophically speaking, this Bindu is also Tripura Sundari. Right? Now, as we said, one can move from Bindu outwards or outwards to the Bindu, or take both the movements. Okay. So this is one part, that the entire spiritual journey is, you start, for most of the people, it is you start at the gate and slowly move towards the center and ultimately reach Bindu, the state of enlightenment. So the spiritual journey usually is from the gate to the Bindu. Okay. Now, different mantras are used for both these movements. Right? The mantra Reem, H-R-E-E-M, is more for outward manifestation, from Bindu to outwards. And Shreem, S-H-R-E-E-M, is usually from outwards to inside.
Okay.
And both of them together also can be used, as in most mantras, both of them are used together.
Right.
And Aim Klim Sau, that is the core mantra of Sri Vidya. And Klim represents the desire. And desire here is not looked upon only as something negative, which is very different from the Buddhist and the Jain approach to desire. So the story of philosophy, to use that phrase, is very interesting here. The interesting is, initially there was only this Bindu. There was one reality called Tripura Sundari. And that reality developed a desire for manifestation. So from one, right, you now have a state of desire which comes slightly down. So this state is unfathomable. So this is beyond human capability to know. It's the unknowable. So nobody can know Tripura Sundari fully. But there is some reality, and that reality developed a desire for manifestation, and that reality, whatever it is, which we call Tripura Sundari, which we cannot know completely. Not only we cannot know, in some other universe, if some other type of people are there, creatures are there, they also cannot know. Nobody can know. So Tripura Sundari is something or some entity, that ultimate reality, which only itself can know itself. Nobody else can know it. So the Bindu signifies that reality. So now we are looking at it philosophically. So let us first look at it philosophically, then we'll again look at it spiritually. And we'll see how the differences are. So philosophically, when we look at Sri Yantra, originally there was only this ultimate reality, which we don't know of, but for some reasons, and we cannot know of completely, but for some reason, the reality developed a desire for manifestation. And the reality now gave out a manifestation of Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. So you come down to the three layers. So there is this unknowable, and then the unknowable develops a desire for manifestation. This is level 1. And then in order to create the universe, the reality creates the fundamental laws and the fundamental deities who are going to control the whole universe. So the fundamental laws of the universe, the elemental laws and the elemental deities were created here. And because they were created here, even they cannot know Tripura Sundari. And therefore we see in scriptures statements like, even Shiva cannot know Tripura Sundari. But if you go to Shaivism, they will define this ultimate reality as Shiva. So the whole definition is different. So the same word actually is not properly used. We need a different word actually. So when we say Shiva as the principle of destruction, it is one thing. And Shiva as the ultimate reality is quite another thing. So we need two different words, but people use the same word and create confusion. The same is true about Ganpati and Mahaganpati. That people often use Mahaganpati to denote the ultimate reality, what we are denoting here as Tripura Sundari. Similarly, people use the word Mahavishnu or Mahashiva to denote that ultimate unknowable reality. But philosophically, what it means is that there was a reality, an eternal reality. There was, is, and always will be. That eternal reality which is not completely knowable. So let us say we call this eternal reality X. Now, for some reason, we don't know why, X wants to have a manifestation. And now the manifestation process starts. And different philosophers now model it differently. One model would be that there is an unknowable reality, this one, Bindu. It develops a desire for manifestation and comes here. It manifests something. It manifests actually the desire for creation. And out of it, it again manifests the elemental forces, the elemental gods, and it comes here. And then it manifests the Panch Mahabhut. And then slowly the universe gets created. Human beings get created. History happens on this planet. So the slowly is you are developing from here down to this complete physical reality. And at this gate, You find you and me and every individual in the human existence in the condition in which we are. So there was one reality. It developed a desire for manifestation. Once it developed the desire for manifestation, it created the laws how the manifestation will be. What should be the journey of the universe like? What should be the laws of that universe? And then it created the fundamental beings. And each being, the gods, the deities, they had their own department to handle. And then they created even more laws and even smaller beings, smaller deities. And then finally the forces of nature were created. From the forces of nature, substances were created. From substances, the physical universe got created. The 5 zones of reality, the material and energy zone, the astral zone, the emotional zone, the thought zone, and the pure consciousness and bliss zone, they got created from substances. And after that, slowly, life started appearing. And after life appeared, man appeared. And after man appeared, human history rolled out. And at a particular point in human history, you and I find ourselves on this planet in a particular situation at a particular stage of our evolution. So you and I will be standing in front of this gate. And this gate will deal with the physical universe, the Panch Mahabhut. So these 3 layers will deal with the 3 layers of the physical universe. And then the individual start and the individual states will be here. So you have the waking state, the dream state, the deep sleep state, and the superconscious state. So the 4 states of human being are depicted here in these 4 circles.
Very interesting.
And then you have deeper parts of human mind depicted here. Like in one of the circles with 14 petals, I think it is this circle. I'm not an expert, but I think it is this circle.
Okay.
Where these 14 petals depict 14 categories of dreams that we have. So all dreams have been classified into 14 categories, and for each category, how to master it, and when you are dreaming it, what are the forces at work? They are personified in the form of yoginis. So they will say in this category, there are 2 Gupta yoginis. Gupta meaning difficult to know, because unless you know dream analysis, you can't make out these things. So the dream process was mapped out not only in 14 categories, but for each category of dreams, how to analyze them. What are the elements in that analysis? All of them were personified in terms of yogini, Gupta yogini, Rahasya yogini, and so on. And in some way, they have created a theory of their own in these terms. So they have their own theory of dream analysis, right? Quite distinct from the theory of dream analysis we have, in which, right, they are using 4 states of consciousness: the waking state, the dream state, the deep sleep state, and the superconscious state. Now, the superconscious state is not found in psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis deals only with 3 states: waking state, dream state, and deep sleep state. Spirituality, of course, deals with the superconscious state. So here you find this, the first 3 layers are depicting physical reality in some way, Panch Mahabhut and everything else. And then we come to the human psychological states. And then these 4 circles probably depict the 4 states. And then you go deeper into the psychological states, And one of the circles depicts the 14 uh,
Dream
states,
states.
states of dreams. And yes, this depicts the different worlds in which we live. Got it? These lower petals, they depict the different worlds in which we live. Meaning, if you qualitatively classify our experiences, one way to do it is to classify them into heavenly experience, ordinary experience, the hellish experience. So from torture to ecstasy, all the feelings in between, you can classify them into groups. In Buddhist literature,
Just like in the Buddhist people in their Gohonzon, they have depicted at 10 worlds,
so
the
here,
different states of our inner being.
so the same kind of depiction, and this is far more ancient than the Buddhist, that we live in these psychological zones. So you can collect together a group of states with a common feel and depict them as one world. Another group of states with a common feel, common experiential, affective flavor, and group them as another world. So this depicts so many worlds in which we live.
I think it has a dual meaning because ever since child we have been taught all of these things in different ways. That whatever is in our inner world is there already existing in the outer world also. So it becomes the symbolic version of both. Whatever a mind can feel and experience in a human state is already existing in a raw form, concrete form in a different way also. So the worlds out there are also the worlds inside of us.
So this is the it is the Buddhist thing that you are referring to?
No,
Okay.
in Durga Stuti and all, they have talked about this.
Correct. So we come from the outer physical world to the human subjective psychological world, and then we go more and more deep, more and more subtle, and finally we'll also have to encounter chakras. So in some way, the chakra science also gets depicted here. And after that, you get into the realm of deities and gods.
Okay.
And finally, you go to the ultimate reality. So you start with the physical world that you see around you, the world of matter, energy, and force. Probably these three layers may be depicting that, may not be, I'm not sure. But the first three layers, they depict the physical universe around you. And then you get into the mind of man. So first thing you do is to look at the four states and understand those four states. And then you get into the worlds in which we live, a slightly more qualitative, finer distinction. From macro, you are going micro. And then you come to the different types of dreams and fantasies, even more subtle world. And then you will get into the chakra world. And then you will get into the mystical world of those experiences which you don't have otherwise, and then into the world of deities. In fact, the mystical world, of course, overlaps with the world of deities. And then slowly you get into the realm of Tripura Sundari. So this is how the physical world, the psychological world, the subtle world of chakras, the world of mystical powers and deities, all of that gets depicted in this diagram. So this becomes like a theory of everything, because it's a theory of the outside world, it's a theory of the inner world, it's a theory of the historical process.
Of evolution.
Yeah. Of evolution and human history, both. And then finally, you also have this ultimate reality, which is unknowable. So it depicts everything from the unknowable, develops a desire to manifest. It manifests the elemental entities, which can be elemental gods or elemental forces. It manifests laws. Then substances are created. The zones are created of individual reality. Individual chakras are created. The beings are created, and individual experiences the worlds and finds himself in a concrete form in a particular historical situation. So right from the origin of the universe to how our mind operates, how the physical world operates, and how we find ourselves, and how do we move from bottom to the top if we want liberation. It will not be the same for everyone, because everyone will have a different zigzag way along the Sri Yantra from the bottom to the top.
It seems like a universal working model for many of the big phenomena, starting right from the existence to the manifestation of life to the inner conscious world and unconscious world too.
Correct. So the physical world, the living world, the psychological world, the mystical world, and the ontological unknowable world, all of them have been put together into a theory of everything and depicted here in a geometrical form, but with a added advantage that this is not only a theory of everything from a philosophical point of view, this is a package, a complete comprehensive package for self-development, which is completely structured. Many people go through spiritual process, like Gautam Buddha went through it, right? Mahavir went through it, Gorakhnath went through it. They all go through in an organic way, in a spontaneous way. But as they are going through the process, they don't know what is going to unfold and what to do. They are continuously, intuitively, spontaneously trying to figure out. But here, what has happened is people who have undergone the complete process have standardized and structured the process. It is like you can figure out mathematics on
Which state you are in.
Yeah. Or you can go to a school and learn mathematics. It's much easier to go to a school because everything is structured, standardized, made palatable from a learning point of view. Because the teacher knows mathematics and he has taught many students and he knows how best to teach, how quickly to teach, and what is the shortest way to teach. So all of that has been put here in terms of Sri Vidya. So the person has to know in Sri Vidya, what does each part of the Sri Yantra mean? Which path a given individual should be taken, and what are the experiences at every part of Sri Vidya? So they will say that, say here, at this part of Sri Yantra, right, there are 4 siddhis. Right? And let us say the 4 siddhis are Anima, Laghima, and so on. Now, literally, Anima means, Laghima means, Anima, Laghima means that you can become small, you can become big. So some people think that if you are able to do some spiritual process at this point of Sri Yantra, you will get that ability to magnify or minimize yourself. But actually what they are talking about is mastering the ego. Right? The inflation of the ego and the deflation of the ego. Right? The domination and the submission. The narcissism and the dependence. So they will say at this point, there are 4 gods and 4 yoginis. And if you master this point, you get this siddhis. In simple words, you will be able to master and develop certain psychological aspects of yourself if you do the process right here. So they are talking of a psycho-spiritual process and clear outcome of that psycho-spiritual process.
It can also mean that you, for example, if we use the synonyms from the quantum physics, you can go to the micromost level of existence to the biggest expansion, the universe itself. So you're getting a spectrum of perspective to look at things right from the very micro level to the maximum expanded version.
If you get into psychoanalysis, let us see. In psychoanalysis, let us say somebody comes with a problem of self-esteem, that the self-esteem stability is a problem. Either you go arrogant or you go submissive. Either you idealize, self-idealize or self-de-idealize. And we keep working with that person. Right? Then in Sri Vidya terms, we will say, you are working at this particular point where anima and laghima siddhis are to be done. So at every point of Sri Yantra, some gods have been kept, some deities have been kept, certain yoginis have been kept. So what it means is that when you start from any of the gate and you start moving towards the center, slowly you have to go circle by circle towards it. And it is a complete psychological process, but not only a psychological process, also a mystical and spiritual process. And finally, you reach the Bindu. And this is again a difference from psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis does not believe that there is a state of enlightenment you can reach. So the limits of human potential are very different. This is far more liberal than psychoanalysis, which is far more conservative when it comes to the limits of human potential. So in every circle, there is some psycho-spiritual process. In every petal, there is a psycho-spiritual process. So all the issues that we deal with sexuality, we deal with aggression, we deal with envy, we deal with ego cohesion. All these issues will get worked out. In some petal or the other, in some triangle or the other, in some corner of the Sri Yantra or the other, there will be some geometrical description which will say this is what it signifies. And the Guru has to tell you that given your personality, start from this corner and work first on this. Then work on this, and this will give you the quickest access to the Bindu. So this becomes like a complete package of self-development, not only for self-healing, but to reach the state of enlightenment, and more importantly, on the way, acquire mystical powers. And success and experiences of the real world. So outer success, inner success, the essential philosophical knowledge, spiritual knowledge, psychological knowledge, mystical knowledge, all is packed here. The only point is, how do you decode each of this petal, each of the triangle? What does it mean? And what should a person do to navigate that triangle, navigate that petal? When can a person say, I have successfully navigated this petal or this triangle? That only the Guru can say, okay, you have entered this and you have done with it. Now move to the inner circle. From this petal, go to this petal. And in this petal, you have to worship X deity, X mantra, do ABC, go out in the real world, live, and let me know what are your experiences. So the Sri Yantra practice is, along with living, it is not only living in the monastery. So this is a symbolic way in which philosophy, psychology, mysticism, spirituality, all of that has been packed in some symbolic essential language which is decoded by people who know it. So this is something about Sri Yantra, why Sri Yantra is so important in the practice of Sri Vidya, and this has to be kept whenever you are doing the practice of Sri Vidya.
So while you were explaining the Sri Yantra, you used a lot of psychological terms where it was showing the different states of mind and further going to higher states of mind and talking about the waking and sleeping state and dream states. How would you relate this entire concretization of the universe itself to psychoanalysis?
Yeah, so now we can connect the Sri Vidya to psychoanalysis, because till now we have tried to understand what Sri Vidya is. Now we can Sri Vidya and Sri Yantra, which is an important part of Sri Vidya. And now we come to psychoanalysis, that let us look at the parallels. Psychoanalysis talks about three states of mind: the conscious, the pre-conscious, and the unconscious. Sri Vidya talks about four states of mind: the conscious, the subconscious, the unconscious, and the superconscious. So the structuring of the mind is parallel but different. Similarly, when we look at, so this is the structuring part of it. Now coming to the functional part of it. In functional terms, psychoanalysis will talk about three states: waking state, dream state, and deep sleep state. Sri Vidya will talk about four states: waking state, dreaming state, deep sleep state, and the superconscious or the turiya state. Because even in deep sleep, somebody knows that he is deep asleep. That somebody who is never asleep is a very important part of the soul or the self who experiences deep sleep. He is not deep sleep. He knows he is experiencing deep sleep. So even when the rest of the mechanism is in deep sleep, there is somebody who knows he is experiencing deep sleep. And that Sri Vidya says is the witness, the sakshi. And that state of awareness, if you can get into it, it's not easy. It's not natural. You have to work for it. But if you can, you experience the fourth state of superconsciousness, where even in deep sleep, you are aware of being deep asleep. So this is the functional difference between the two. Another difference between the two is in the dream analysis theory. Sri Vidya divides it into 14 categories, and it has its own standard operating procedure of analyzing and working through each category of dreams. Quite unlike psychoanalysis, which is quite open on this. We have a broad structure, we don't have a detailed SOP. Like Freud would have its own broad Freudian method. Jung would have his own broad Jungian method. But nobody has a standardized SOP. Jung has gone one step more, but even he does not get into an SOP kind of thing. But here, it's a very detailed thing. You can almost call it an SOP. So this is where the parallels are. Both of them are interested in self-knowing, self-transformation. Both are interested in self-healing. Both are interested in developing oneself fully. And both of them go extremely subtle as one can go. For both of them, Sri Vidya as well as psychoanalysis, desire is at the root of it. Both of them accept difficult parts of human nature. Unlike many Sattvic spiritual schools, because Sri Vidya essentially is a Dasha Mahavidya school, and Dasha Mahavidya essentially is a left-hand Tantra space, they don't have any problem with the Freudian or the Kleinian phenomenon. So, there is no taboo in the Sri Vidya. In fact, one of the ways the mantra japa operates is that the moment you are reciting the mantra japa, you know that you are reciting the mantra japa. You can see yourself doing it. In an inner way, an observer is automatically created.
Great.
And because the mantra japa is going on, if anything else is going on, it's easy to see it from a distance because you're seeing the mantra japa from a distance. And because mantra japa consumes some of the energy, the other thing which is active cannot overwhelm you because the energy is distributed in three parts.
Right.
So you are able to see the working of the mind, taking away much of the overwhelming power of that working of the mind. By distribution of the energy and by strengthening the observer. Apart from what the sound of the mantra does, that's a separate issue altogether.
Right.
So, in Sri Vidya, when this kind of thing is done, one of the things that is attempted is the unconscious slowly starts emptying itself and the taboo elements, they come up. So all the Freudian elements, all the Kleinian elements, they are all discussed in different ways in the Sri Vidya process. There is nothing hidden under the carpet. There is no taboo. Right? And in fact, it is far more liberal when it comes to acting out and living out compared to psychoanalysis.
Okay.
We are nearing the session time. We'll continue in the part 3.
All right. Thank you.